Welcome back, gents. Let's talk about Minetest. All right, so today we're going to be talking about the liquid draw type. And this is a really fun one. I mean, a lot of this stuff is just fun. But this one in particular gives us some ability to adjust the textures in a very interesting way. So it starts by explaining that you're going to need two different nodes to accomplish two different effects. One, we're going to have the node that kind of is static. It just sits there, and it's not flowing. And then we will have the actual flowing node. So we call the ones that sit there the sources, and the other ones the flowing. Let's see what they call it here. Yeah, underscore flowing. So you're going to have two different nodes. And at the bottom of this section, they actually explain more details on how the flowing differs from the source. But let's take a second to look at this draw type here. There's a lot going on here. And so, yeah, be patient. So here we have draw type liquid. Fairly self-explanatory. We've been doing that. We know how to do that. Param type light, that allows light to propagate through. Well, actually, it just allows the node to hold light values. And I think down here we'll probably assign some sort of light propagation value. So I don't know where exactly that is. But here we have something that's kind of funny. This is required to stop the inventory image from being animated. So I could see some of you having some fun with that. But basically, you can define your inventory image as a static thing, right? And that's I guess easier on the computer. Here we have something different, right? If you look at, these are tiles, and that's very similar to what we've seen before, right? Tiles in some sort of table format, right? Two curly braces. We go back down to liquids. We also have a table, but there's a table within a table, it looks like. So here we got another table, and then finally another table. So you can see here that the tiles method or the tiles item of the description, right? So we're going deeper and deeper into the description of a node, right? So the tiles method is quite complex. It has more functionality than you might have thought. What is this doing exactly? Well, as you can imagine, default water underscore source animated, that it's going to make your textures move. Probably the best way to understand this would be to go and look at like default water or something, for example. But I'll do my best to explain. So from what I can tell, what this is saying is that, of course, we're defining the image in our textures, right? That's fairly obvious. The computer needs to know what image you want it to look like. That then is followed by a comma, because this is inside of a table, okay? This is a table we're editing, which means you have items inside the table separated by commas. The next thing that is defined is the animation, and we're setting that equal to another table with different items inside of it. What are these items? Well, here we have something called vertical frames. Let's see, what could that be about? Aspect W, right? At the aspect of so that's the width of this cube, the width or the height of the cube, and then the length of from what I understand, the length of the texture, and how in proportion to, let's see, what it would be is, instead of the picture is going to be 16 wide by 32 high. But let me check on that. So here I am in the default mod folder, which is found in your Minetest folder under games, Minetest game mods, default textures. And you can see here, right off the bat, we've got something going on here. That's interesting, right? That's a strange texture. Well, you could probably understand and tell what that is. That's how when you're cracking anything, cracking the length, and so what it's done there is it has broken up. It has the different cracks that you would expect when you're cracking, right? And it's all in one picture. Interestingly, it's all in one picture, and it's a long, skinny picture. So as we go through this, you'll start to notice. So here's another one: default chest inside. Interesting, which that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Again, default furnace. Interesting. I don't know. Oh yeah, that's right. This is the animation. This is the animation of the fire. So the fire is going to move. It's going to take over a course of a certain predefined amount of time. It's going to shift the texture up, and making the fire move. So that's pretty cool. Same with the lava, and so on. And this would actually shift up and up and up and up and up and up and up, and you can tell the water is the same way. So that is what the texture would look like. So let's actually take a look at the default mod and how they have defined the source. First thing I want you to understand when looking for examples. Can I zoom in? That's probably not worth it. Okay, so the first thing I want you to understand is that a lot of these mods that are bigger are broken up into subsections. So it can be a little bit difficult to find. Starting at the init.lua will lead you ultimately to where you need to go by looking at the do file section. So that's where it would say, in the init.lua, it would say, hey, since you're here, because you start here, I want you to do aliases.lua. I want you to do nodes.lua. So this is a little bit laborious, but some of it is common sense. When you're looking, the water is not going to be located in crafting, craft items and things like that. It's going to be located in nodes, right? So init.lua will kind of point you in the right direction, and you got to kind of search through the folders to find what you need. So what I'm doing is I went to nodes and I searched for default : water _ source. Obviously that name I did originally get from the textbook, because they said, hey, this is actually taken out of the default mod, and so I just went straight there. And you can see here that so that's how I got here. Now we're talking about tiles, right? So here's the definition of tiles. It's quite a long one, and so let's look at this picture, right? We know that every texture tiles is located has a picture associated with it, located in the textures folder. Go to textures, and I think we can just search that way. Yep, sure enough. Here we have the water, and you'll notice that it is actually quite long. I don't know the length of this. I don't know that it really matters. I'm sure there is some sort of specific length that it needs to be. It needs to be at least 16 wide, and then the height of it, I'm not sure. But you can see that it's very long. And if I'm not mistaken, I think this length means that that's how quickly it jumps to the next frame, or how much of the I really don't know. I need to mess around with that, and maybe you guys can mess around with that to figure out what that does. But this defines that the picture is up and down. This is going to define how much of that picture to take. And then I believe this is the speed at which to go through that picture. And in other words, that's one way to describe how that works. Now this, I don't think you actually need. This is kind of new, and as far as this is saying, yeah, so here we have new style water source material, mostly unused. So I think you can get rid of that. Is that the same? Oh, that's not actually the same. So yeah, let's look at what they're doing here. We've got default water source animated.png. So this is the exact same picture. Backface underscore culling equals true. So this is, I think this is actually talking about, yeah, you know, I really don't know. I really don't know what this is doing here because we have culling up here as well. So, not sure. We'd have to look in the Lua API to see what that's for. Let's do that. Okay, backface culling equals true, set to false to disable backface culling for material. Oh yeah, it's like cull lumber at Home Depot. So the idea behind cull is that you take the unwanted, for instance, let's just talk about wood. In this example, they're talking about animals, where you take a subsection of a species which is undesirable, has undesirable traits such as it can't be domesticated, and you just kill it, and you get it out of the way so that you can have your domesticated animals or something like that. But wood, Home Depot gets a big box of wood, and some of the wood is all banged up. They take the banged up wood, they throw it in a pile, and they call it cull lumber. They don't sell it at the regular price, it's a discounted price. Anyway, so there's some sort of segregation of the good and the bad, and so that's what it's for. At any rate, back to the textbook. What I want you to do is, so that's a brief description of the tiles, right? And there's other things in here that I don't have time to get into. It's not really the subject of this discussion. So what I want you to do is simply create one of these nodes, add one of these nodes to your mod, and be sure to set the mod name correctly so that it's created. You can leave water source, that's fine, and then place it in the world. You're also going to need to define a texture, right? And the texture needs to be long and skinny like I showed you. So once you've done that, it should draw just fine. But mess around with some of these things. See what happens. Make your picture different things, right? Which is fairly obvious. Whatever. I'd like to, if you have questions regarding different aspects, then mess with them, break them. Put them back and tweak them again, break it until you figure out kind of how some of the things work.